crowd was wild. The music was loud, and Jack felt a rush that made him believe life could only be lived on the edge. The tale of two paths, a journey of true and false connections. Once upon a time, in a small town nestled between rolling hills, two friends, Jack and Emma, lived very different lives, though they didn't know it yet. They had met in high school, drawn together by shared interests in music and wild nights out. Their friendship had always felt effortless, until one path took a turn, and the other stayed true. Jack's journey, the illusion of connection. It all started one rainy evening, a week after Jack's band had played a local gig. The crowd was wild, the music was loud, and Jack felt a rush that made him believe life could only be lived on the edge. That night, Emma had introduced him to meth. At first, it felt like a revelation. The world blurred and buzzed, his body electrified with energy, and his thoughts flowed like music, no longer sluggish or held back by doubts. But that was the illusion. Everything was clearer, more vivid, and yet, in reality, everything was hollow. Jack was hooked. Every time Jack went to see Emma, it felt like they were floating in a bubble. An intense, surreal world where everything seemed right. Their conversations were fast, fragmented, and filled with jokes that made no sense later. But it didn't matter. The artificial connection was enough to keep them going. They'd sit in her dimly lit apartment, the walls lined with posters of musicians they admired. They'd talk about the world, about love, and about the future, but it always circled back to the high. Their words had no weight, just an unspoken promise that the next hit would be the one that made everything real again. Emma's perspective, the strain beneath the surface. Emma, at first, had seen their connection as something special. She believed in the power of shared moments, of late-night talks and laughter. But slowly, the drugs crept in. Jack, who once played guitar with passion, now seemed like a ghost of himself. His laughter wasn't real. His eyes weren't as bright. He wasn't the person she had once known. Emma began to feel the distance, even though they were together. The joy felt hollow. She'd try to reach out to him, to pull him from the fog of meth, but every attempt was met with resistance, a wall that seemed to grow higher with each passing day. She thought the friendship was still there, still alive. After all, Jack was just trying to numb the pain of something he couldn't explain, right? But Emma knew something was wrong. She could feel it. Jack was lost, and she was just there in the haze, unable to help him see beyond the mist. The turning point. It was a month later, and Jack found himself staring into the mirror at 3 a.m. The reflection was blurry, his skin pale, his body trembling. He was alone. Emma had left, tired of waiting for him to change. She had promised to be there, but she couldn't do it anymore. Jack wasn't just physically alone. He was emotionally adrift. His connection to the world had withered, replaced by a mind that no longer recognized itself. He felt depressed, trapped by the drug, by the false promises of temporary escape. He realized, as the meth wore off and the loneliness crept in, that his relationships had become nothing more than a web of shallow, drug-fueled exchanges. It was all fake. Where did it all go wrong? He asked himself. It wasn't just the drug that had taken him away. It was the illusion of connection that kept him blind. Emma's new path, a reconnection to true joy. Meanwhile, Emma had found a new direction. She had cut ties with Jack and the toxic relationships that had kept her bound to that false sense of belonging. It wasn't easy. The first few weeks had felt lonely and unfamiliar. There was boredom, a hollow feeling that lingered in her chest as she began to rediscover what real connection meant. She remembered a time, long ago, when she used to write songs in her bedroom, before the meth had clouded her creativity. She had purpose, a true, unwavering sense of direction. She picked up her guitar and played for hours, feeling the music flow through her once more. It was different. It was real. And with it came a new joy, the kind she hadn't felt in years. Emma began to spend time with people who were grounded, who didn't need to numb themselves to feel good. She rekindled old friendships. Friends she hadn't seen in years because she had been so caught up in the whirlwind of meth-fueled nights. She would go to the park and laugh with her friends under the golden light of a sunset. The conversation was easy, full of warmth, not forced or rushed. There was no need for a hit to make the moment special. it already was. She started volunteering at a local shelter, offering her time to help those who needed support. She found meaning in serving others, in connecting with people on a level that didn't involve drugs, but rather mutual respect and shared humanity. She saw the world through clearer eyes, eyes that were free of chemicals, free of the fog that had clouded her view for so long. The final encounter, Jack and Emma's divergence. A year passed before Jack and Emma met again by chance. Jack had tried to escape the grip of meth, but it had been a slow, painful process. His path was filled with depression, loneliness, and anxiety, a constant battle to reclaim what he had lost. He was on the road to recovery, but it wasn't without immense struggle. Emma, on the other hand, had transformed. She was more confident, more alive. Her life was full of meaning and direction. Her relationships authentic and deep. She was no longer the person who lived for fleeting highs. She was someone grounded in her own passions, in her sense of self. As they sat together at a cafe, Jack could see the difference in Emma. She was smiling genuinely, her eyes bright with joy. Their conversation was full of laughter, but this time it wasn't forced. There was no pretending, no hidden agenda, just two friends sharing an honest moment. "Emma, you look so different." Jack said, his voice quiet. "You're happy." "I am," she replied, her smile warm. "I'm at peace with myself, and I've found real connection, the kind that doesn't fade when the high wears off." Jack's eyes filled with tears. He knew now, without a doubt, that the illusion he had chased for so long wasn't worth it. Real connection, real joy were waiting on the other side of addiction. But that road would be long. And for now, Jack was ready to take the first step. The end? Through Jack and Emma's journey, we see two contrasting worlds: the hollow, artificial connections created by meth, and the deep, fulfilling relationships that come from living authentically, embracing purpose, and rediscovering joy in the simplicity of life. In the end, it's clear that while meth can offer temporary relief, it never provides the lasting connection, clarity, and joy that come from a life free of addiction. And in this freedom, true happiness is found.